We're driving a 2022 Subaru Ascent. It's in its 4th year of production. Coming up, we're going to tell you why being kind of old is both a bad thing and a great thing. But first, information explosion! This is a family-friendly SUV. Let's begin with interior.
I don't know if it's the faux carbon fiber or the fact that there's a CD player, but it does look a little dated.
It does look a little dated, and that is because it is a little bit dated.
Okay, there you go.
Well, and one thing I do like is that they were really thoughtful about adding spots for stowing things. There's like little storage nooks here and there. And you know, sweetie, something we haven't done in a very long time, but for $500, sweetie,
oh no!
can you tell me how many cup holders does Subaru say are in the Subaru Ascent? And no, you can't just count them all.
19.
Did you do some research? How do you know that?
I'm just brilliant.
Excuse me, I have to go consult the checking funds and see what kind of money we got so we can deliver on this $500 promise, because I am a man of my word. Well done, sweetie. That is exactly right.
Does this count as one of the cup holders? This weirdness?
It really feels passive aggressive. It's almost like, oh yeah, you like cup holders? Here's all your cup holders. You know, I'm gonna give you more cup holders.
We could not figure out where it went. We looked in all 3 rows. Do you have an Ascent? Do you know where this goes? Tell us in the comments.
Cup holders and cup holders.
So I agree. I love all the storage nooks. This one fits my phone perfectly.
Yeah, functional. You've got this little conversation mirror up here that doesn't delete the sunglass holder. It actually is a sunglass holder with a conversation mirror. Nice. I think there are a lot of practical little touches. Let's talk about interior space. So in the second row, I'm a very average 5'10" man, and I fit quite comfortably. The seats slide and recline. But if you go back to the third row,
Don't do that.
Just don't do it. Don't even try. Don't even think about it. No, it's honestly, I could sit back in the third row if I needed to for a little bit, but it is not a comfortable space. This has 2.6 inches less headroom in the third row than the Honda Pilot. You can make legroom work if you slide the second row seat up a little bit. So I guess it just sort of depends on what your challenging dimension is. If you're tall, then you'll definitely want to move up to the second row. One other thing that I think is really interesting about second and third row space is third row access. You've got these little flat steps that are easy to step on. And then for our kiddo, there's a little grab handle so she can pull herself up. One thing I wish was in here though is something that they have in the Kia Telluride and Honda Pilot, which is just a single button that makes the second row slide forward. This has a lever you have to lift up, and there's no way our daughter could lift that lever up by herself. One other big consideration, if you saw our Nissan Pathfinder video, you can have a child seat installed in the second row, tilted forward, and still get back to the third row without having to remove that second row child seat. Here, you definitely can't do that. The seat won't let you do it.
So if you plan to use the third row regularly and you have a car seat in the second row, you better get the captain's chairs.
Yeah.
Right? One thing that does make this super family friendly is the low height. It makes it really easy for our girl to climb in, and it makes it super easy for someone like myself who's just 5'2" to reach over and buckle her.
A couple more child notes. We got latch flaps, and I was going to say they were elegant latch flaps because they incorporate the magical properties of Velcro, but you had some thoughts.
Velcro is a super classy material, don't get me wrong, but it was a little bit difficult on one side to pull the flap out and push it back in. If you just install a car seat and you're done, no problem. But if you're installing and uninstalling often, they might be less than convenient to use.
Mentioning the captain's chairs does remind me that you can get this in 7 or 8 passenger versions. The base model only comes as 8 passenger. All the middle ones you can get either 7 or 8, and at the very, very top level, you can only get 7. I said 7 and 8 more than the people at Boeing there. That was a lot of 7s and a lot of 8s. Oh, one other thing though in terms of convenience, I like how the second row doors open really wide. That's it. That's my observation. Oh, and maybe my last second row thoughts. If you want to put the seats down for cargo hauling, it's a two-step process. Rather than just pulling up a single lever and having them flop forward, you have to slide them forward and then pull a second lever with the number 2 on it to make them angle down. As for cargo space, behind the third row, there's a very generous 17.8 cubic feet, which is really good for the category. And I also like the fact they've got that underfloor storage area where you can stow the cargo cover, because sometimes you have that thing and then you're not quite sure what to do with it. And then when you put second and third row down, a lot of space to work with.
And installing that cargo cover is easy as 1, what's happening? 2, what, who? 3, all done.
I should also mention safety. So there are 7 airbags standard, including a driver's knee airbag. The NHTSA has rated the Subaru Ascent 5 stars all across the board, except for rollover, which is a 4-star. But overall, in general terms, this is a very, very safe vehicle. And that safety is amplified by the standard EyeSight suite of active driver assist. If you look up here, you see these little nodules. Those are 2 cameras. This car has stereoscopic vision. In fact, it probably sees better than you do, sweetie.
Yes, it does.
But it uses that stereoscopic vision to give you things like lane keeping assist, automatic emergency braking, and adaptive cruise control. What do we think, family? Is the Subaru Ascent family friendly?
Family friendly.
It is family friendly with a caveat. That caveat being, if you're going to regularly use that third row and you've got kids in child seats in the second row, that's going to add some complexity. Oh, and I forgot to mention, there is a latch point in the third row, but if you use it, it covers 2 of the seats.
Ooh.
Yeah. No. Rear window test. All the way down. Armrest test. Oh, that inboard is a very, very soft space, and even though there's stitching, it doesn't quite connect with where my elbow lands, so that's nice. The outboard, similarly soft, maybe a little less soft, but the problem is it's a little too far out for me to comfortably rest my elbow on and keep my hand on the steering wheel. I'm gonna go full marks on the inboard, and I'm gonna go maybe halfway in on the outboard. Hey, have you subscribed to our channel? If you haven't, please do. At 100,000 subs, which is coming up quickly, we're going to review a windowless white van. Style!
It's style.
Sweetie, do you have any thoughts about the style of the Subaru Ascent?
One thing that I could not get over was how much it looked like the smaller Subarus. I think it's because the ratio of emblem to front is the same on this as like the Outback.
It looks like you're looking at a Subaru Outback, but you're just a little bit closer to it.
Exactly, well said.
I don't know if it's an audacious or deeply compelling visual statement, though it is somewhat more compelling with this particular trim. This is new for 2022. This is the Onyx edition, which adds some black trim on the outside. You get this, what's it called, Star Tech interior materials. It's like almost like a fake leather, in that it is a fake leather. It's waterproof and easy to clean up. And then, of course, you got emblems and 20-inch wheels. So it's a little bit more stylish rendition of the Subaru Ascent.
I like it.
What do you guys think of the styling of the Subaru Ascent? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you feel some other way about it? Tell us in the comments. If you're curious what we're doing between YouTube videos, give us a follow over on Instagram. I'm this guy who mostly deals with the cars and helicopters, and she's that girl. She's your one-stop source for people and probably cats, right?
But it's a great cat.
Oh yeah, primo cat. Moving on, In Motion. Let's start the In Motion segment with some praise. I think that the Subaru Ascent drives very smoothly and it's very quiet in here. It's kind of a serene, comfortable space, which those are ideal traits if you're hauling a family around. Getting into a little bit more complexity, let's talk about the powertrain. So this has a continuously variable transmission teamed with a turbocharged engine. And I'm gonna stop here, and what I want you to feel is power right off the line, floored. Whee! There we go. I'm going to draw attention to a few things that happened there. It took a while for the vehicle to really start to get moving, and then there was a moment where there was kind of a jerk there.
Yeah.
The off-the-line challenges with the CVT are pretty common. It's one of the reasons why Toyota, with their Corolla's CVT, they've got one dedicated gear for taking off, a takeoff gear, to help overcome that kind of lull at the beginning of power delivery in a CVT. So I don't like how this feels off the line, but in general driving, it's okay. But yeah, you do get those moments where it kind of like lurches a little bit. but I suspect average drivers won't care. One thing I think is fantastic is the steering. As I turn here, it takes very, very little movement to get a turn. I dug into it a little bit. So the steering ratio on this is 13.5 to 1. The steering ratio on a Honda Pilot is 16 to 1, meaning it takes a lot more turns to get the same amount of steering in the Honda Pilot. Basically, I'm just giving you some numbers to back up the fact that it's a very quick steering vehicle. And I can attest to the fact that this thing clings well. If I wanted to, I could drive through these corners at dangerous speeds, but I don't want to because I got too much to live for. All of that is not to say that the steering gives you a lot of information. It really has kind of very numb feel. There's nothing coming through here, but if you trust the vehicle, you can push this thing to be very quick, and that speedy steering ratio adds a lot of fun that I don't think I ever really appreciated when we lived in a flat suburban environment. As mentioned, we live in the mountains, so one thing that we've considered is mountain friendliness, and this does have standard all-wheel drive, which is a Subaru strength. They believe in all-wheel drive, except for the BRZ. And then I'm also going to mention that as I come to a stop here, the brakes feel nice. Good job, brakes. I'm praising the brakes. That's probably a cue that I should not be driving anymore. Sweetie's at the wheel, and she's sitting erect like a groundhog.
It's the Sweetie way.
That is a perfect gateway into visibility.
I really see well out of the front window. Everything feels very low, and I feel like I have a command view of the world.
So what about over your left and right shoulders?
I really like how big the windows are, and the belt line seems low, or maybe the windows are just large.
You're right, there's a lot of window to work with there.
There is.
Good for seeing.
The only part where I feel like I'm struggling to see is this pillar is at a deeper angle, so it intrudes in my vision more when I'm on curvy roads. I'm always on curvy roads.
So we pulled away there. How did you feel about the acceleration?
This feels like plenty of power for me. I really like the steering too. It feels smooth and precise.
You know, kind of as I suspected, powertrain delivery is the kind of thing that experts, I'm saying quotes and I'm talking about myself, experts obsess over, but that if you're just a normal driver, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, it's fine. Oh no, the power delivery is inconvenient to me somehow.
Well, Sweetie's gotten sassy and is now making fun of me. Time for me to get back in the driver's seat. Overall, I think the Subaru Ascent is a very nice driving package. Let me very quickly thank the fine folks on Patreon who support us. Patreon folks, we love you. You get early access to our videos, and we love chatting with you over there. So thank you for your support. That's very kind.
Thank you.
Onward, emotion factor.
This car is so practical and likable, but it's not emotional.
A lot of that probably comes down to aesthetics. It's not making a big enough statement stylistically for your taste.
That's it.
Which, at the same time, it does have a utilitarian charm that can help support the emotive parts of life, like going on family adventures. It really is kind of a lifestyle enabling vehicle, and I think that's where the emotion comes in here. If you guys are feeling emotionally moved to pick up a Subaru Ascent of your very own, click the Kelley Blue Book listing link in the description below. Remarks! In the beginning of the video, I teased that we were going to say why this vehicle being kind of old or late in its life cycle is both a bad thing and a good thing. First, bad thing. There are some features in some other mid-size SUVs that I think are super cool. Like Honda has that camera system where you can see what's happening in the second and third row seats, and they've got cabin talk so you can communicate to people in the back there, which is really cool. I know also you can't get a 360-degree camera system in the Subaru Ascent. They offer a 180 front camera, but for that really complete 360 view when you're backing out of your driveway and there might be children around, I think that's a really neat thing to offer that Subaru doesn't have yet. The upside to the Subaru Ascent being late in its life cycle, 2019 and 2020, there were a few recalls, specifically related to the CVT. There was like a pressure sensor that would malfunction, and you could have like slipping, or the vehicle could even stop. Those have all been solved. What was funny is that in a Bronco video about all the things that have gone with with our Bronco, a lot of people expected the new vehicle that we bought to be perfect. It's pretty rare for them to be truly perfect. Even like cars that have a really great reputation for reliability, it's not unusual for first-year vehicles to have things that you just can't anticipate until they get out and have grubby-handed, family folk like us, messing about with them. All of that to say, they've worked out the kinks and the Subaru Ascent is pretty well dialed in now. Let's talk about the infotainment system. So there's a 6.5-inch screen standard, but that's only on the base trim. Every other trim moves to an 8-inch screen. You've got standard Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone connectivity. Though I will point out that in the Subaru Legacy, they have, I think it's an 11.6-inch screen. Again, this goes to the fact that this is an older model, and I'm guessing that when they finally update it, that we're gonna get a bigger screen in this space. Nonetheless, what do you think of the 8-inch screen in our test unit?
I think it's really well laid out. The icons are all visually distinct.
Oh, yeah.
There's also buttons down here that have shortcuts. It's really easy to use.
By the way, for those who care about fuel economy, if you get one of the models with 18-inch wheels, which is basically the two lowest trims, you get 1 mpg in city and in highway driving extra. So,
Woo!
what are you going to do with all your savings?
Buy CDs to put in the CD player.
If you have aspirations to tow, there's a 5,000-pound max, which is pretty standard for the midsize 3-row category, though the Nissan Pathfinder can tow 6,000. Do you know why they get to tow 6,000 pounds?
No.
Because they went with an automatic transmission, traditional automatic transmission, instead of a CVT. Just saying.
Glad you got to work that in one more time.
May I make a trim recommendation?
Always.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest that you go one level up to the Premier trim. The big thing is that it gives you an option package, and if you add that $1,500 option package, you get keyless access with push-button start, along with a power hatch and an automatic braking system for when you're backing up, like if traffic is crossing. But the important thing is that keyless access, because as we know, I will not reach in my pocket to get a key in a car that I own. Total price for that is a little bit more than $36,000. By the way, I said Premier trim, I meant premium trim. All of that trim recommendation aside, I have to point out that if you want adjustable driver lumbar support, and I do, you have to go all the way up to the limited trim.
Dang.
It's more than $39,000 to get that lumbar support. Or you can just do like I do and get the sad inflatable lumbar pillow. Like if you have an ambiguous age, like people aren't quite sure how old you are, then you want to just really be clear, like, yeah, I am an old man, and here's the pillow to prove it.
Nothing wrong with taking care of yourself, baby.
It's like a spa day for my lower back. As far as the competitors, Toyota Highlander, Honda Pilot, Kia Telluride, the previously mentioned Nissan Pathfinder, which we really liked. And in fact, if you want to see our review, click up here. It's a really competitive category, though I think there are some really good reasons to get the Subaru Ascent, that standard all-wheel drive and a very competitive base price, plus standard 3-zone climate control, the whole EyeSight suite of active driver assist. I think it creates a strong value proposition that is made even stronger by Subaru's traditionally excellent resale value. Yeah, there are plenty of reasons to get a Subaru Ascent, the vehicle we are driving.
Cool.
Right now. Synopsis! In thinking about the essence of the Subaru Ascent, they took the capabilities and aesthetic of smaller Subaru vehicles like the Outback, and then they made it bigger. To me, the Subaru Ascent is the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade balloon of mid-size 3-row SUVs. Hey, there's that thing I like, but more of it. Do you have a better synopsis? If so, tell us in the comments section. If you'd like to see what we're up to between YouTube videos, feel free to give us a follow over on Instagram. If you liked this video, feel free to hit the like button. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, or maybe some of our helicopter adventures, feel free to subscribe. Family, I think we've done a very nice job reviewing the Subaru Ascent. May I have some 5s? And a 5. Pew! And you, come get your high five. Whoa.